In Module 6, we're going to be discussing work teams and groups. And if we look at what that encompasses, and when we talk about groups and work team, groups are two or more people with common interest, objectives, and continuing interaction. And with that, a work team is a group of people with complementary skills who are committed to a common mission, performance goal, and approach for which they hold themselves mutually accountable. And the importance of teams, there's lots of things that go into teams, and most of you have probably been on a team, you've worked in a team, but the benefits when we're looking at an organization and how it benefits an organization, we know that teamwork, it's a joint action by a team in which the individual interests are subordinated to the team unity. So we are moving towards that, and a team having unity, and not just individual interests are what's key. And in recent movement toward team-oriented work environments has championed empowerment through collaboration, which is an important component of any team. But the social benefits to individual, because there is a social benefit to yourself. There's the psychological intimacy. It's emotional and psychological closeness to other team or group members. You're a part of something, and we're with a team. You're not out there all alone. There's integrated involvement, and that's a closeness that's achieved through tasks and also activities. But let's look at a few of the aspects of group behavior. They're the norms of the behavior. That's the group standards used to evaluate behavior of the members. And those norms can be written or unwritten. They can be verbalized or not verbalized. They can be implicit or explicit. Then there's group cohesion, and that's the interpersonal glue that makes the group members stick together. And group cohesion can enhance job satisfaction for members. It also improves organizational productivity. Social loafing, that's the failure of a member to contribute personal time, effort, thoughts, or other resources. And most of you probably know someone that's just ridden the coattails, so to speak, that's been a part of the group. And what happens is that really creates a drag on the group's efforts and their achievements. But then again, you also have team members, if they're highly agreeable, also conscientious, and we've talked about in the Big Five. Those type of people a lot of times will cover for the social loafers. And it may be because they like them, it might be that it's the pet of the group, but they'll end up covering for someone that's a social loafer within the group. And then loss of individuality. Individual group members' loss of self-awareness and its accompanying sense of accountability, inhibition, and responsibility for individual behavior. And so it can be used to potentially explosive effects for the team. A lot of times people will follow a crowd. They may engage in morally reprehensible acts, sometimes even violent behavior as committed members of their group or an organization when their individuality is lost. So they will go along with the crowd. So types of groups. There are different types of groups. There are formal groups. And if we look at formal groups, those are official or assigned groups that they're gathered to perform various tasks. It could be that it's a board of directors, maybe a task team, maybe a committee that's formed. Informal groups. These are groups that evolve in the work setting to meet the needs not met by formal groups. And that might be an interest group within your organization. Consideration in the formation of groups. A lot of times we'll look at ethnic, we'll look at gender, cultural, also interpersonal diversity. And then Tuckman has a 5-stage model of group development. And I've always found this fascinating. If we look at it, there's a forming stage of the group. And that's where little agreement is had. There's unclear purpose, guidance, also direction, and then storming. That's where conflict comes into play. There's increased clarity of the purpose. There might be power struggles. Who's going to be the leader? Who's going to assume certain roles within that team. And then coaching also happens in that. The norming phase, that's the agreement and consensus. You have clear roles. You also have clear responsibilities, and there's facilitation within that. Then when the group hits its peak, it's the performance part of it, or performing. There's a clear vision, also a purpose. You focus on a goal achievement. And delegation, you make sure people within your team is doing what they're supposed to do, or your group. And then adjourning, that's where the task is completed. You have good feelings about your achievements and recognition. So let's look at characteristics of mature groups. Mature groups have a purpose and they have a mission. So they're in that group because they know what they're there for, and they are missionally driven with the organization to achieve that. And then behavioral norms. Everyone knows their place in the group. And you might think back to different times when you've been in a group and people assumed those norms. Group cohesion. That's work-related tensions and anxiety decrease in highly cohesive teams, but they increase in low cohesive teams. So people, and how do you make people cohesive? That's an interesting part also. And then status structure. It's the set of authority and task relations among group members. It can become hierarchical, and that means that it's top down with the status, or egalitarian, where everyone tries to be equal. So let's talk a little bit about the task maintenance functions in teams or group. An effective group or team carries out various task functions to perform its work successfully, and various maintenance functions to ensure that members are satisfied and that they have a sense of team spirit. So task functions, you initiate activities, you're seeking information. But if we look on the opposite side of it, the maintenance functions, you might support others, you follow others' leads. So we can look at how that plays into it with groups. And then factors influencing group behavior is work team structure. Those are issues that include goal and objectives, guidelines, performance measures, role specification. So we want to make sure that there's some structure within our team to be effective. Also, the work team process. That issue involves managing cooperation and competitive behaviors. And then diversity. We know that it enhances effectiveness of a group. So it can be affected by dissimilarity and structural diversity in a group. Other factors, we know that styles of member contribution include the contributor, the collaborator, the communicator, and also the challenger. We need people in our group that challenge what we're doing. Creativity, group or team creativity and divergent thinking can be enhanced through greater diversity in teams. And we want our teams creative because we want to get the best possible results from that team. Electronic brainstorming, where we're trying to come up with different ideas and getting just ideas from other people. Training facilitators, they play a huge role in it. And that's everything from keeping people on task to coming up with just managing the group to where they perform better. And then sometimes membership change in our teams where we want to maybe pull in someone else that's going to put that together. How we relate to self-managed teams. Let's talk about that. The self-managed teams are called self-directed teams, autonomous work groups, all of that. But the competence skills, it requires the development of the following skills if it's enacted effectively. So competence skills, you need mastery and experience in your chosen discipline and profession to provide the essential foundations for empowerment. Also, process skills. You need negotiation skills, especially with allies, opponents, and adversities. Allies, it's pretty much easy, but opponents, it can be very tricky. And with your adversaries, it can be dangerous. You can't predict their behavior. And then cooperative and helping behaviors. Cooperative people engage and they're encouraging and behavior. They maximize gains for everyone within the team. And communication skills. That's essential to empowerment skills. These skills include self-expression skills, skills in reflective listening. Empowerment can't occur in a team unless team members are able to express themselves in emotionally intelligent ways, as well as listen carefully to one another. And self-managed teams. These are teams that make decisions that were once reserved for managers. It's also called self-directed teams or autonomous work group. They make decisions that are otherwise reserved for managers. They also help implement empowerment within organization. Upper echelon, these self-managed teams at the top level of an organization. And then upper echelon theory. Its background characteristics of top management teams predict organizational characteristics and set standards for values. We know that the upper echelon does play into values, competence, and ethics. Also, unique characteristics of an organization. Every organization is different, and every organization has characteristics. But for the most part, it will come from the top down. And this is key to success of an organization. Also, we know with the upper echelons, we need diversity at the top. It helps sustain high levels of organizational performance at its peak, and it helps maintain the CEO's just the vitality of what's going on in the organization. We also need multicultural top teams. Diversity a lot of times will increase uncertainty, complexity, and inherent confusion in the group process. But culturally diverse groups can generate more and better ideas, and it can limit groupthink. This is the lecture, this part for our Module 6. I'll be back with more information on other topics.